I'm John Dyer V.
And I'm Michael Taylor Gray.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending May 2nd, 2020. The North African nation of Tunisia recorded its first legally recognized same-gender marriage, but only briefly. The Tunisian LGBTQ rights group association Shams had announced late last week that the marriage in France of a gay Tunisian man and a gay Frenchman was registered in the capital city of Tunis. But local affairs minister Lofty Zitoun denounced the story as fake news a few days later. He called it an error committed by the municipality of Tunis and said that it has been rectified. The Republic of Tunisia is a predominantly Muslim country. LGBTQ citizens get no protections from discrimination, and of course there is no marriage equality there. President Kais Saied vocally supports the continued criminalization of consensual adult same-gender sex. He's called LGBTQ people deviants. But Association Shams leader and lawyer Munir Batour is still very proud of the group's success. Batour said, "To my knowledge, Shams is now the only queer legal association in the Arab Muslim world. This is not nothing and offers us hardly believable opportunities, sometimes beyond our borders."
A nonprofit in Japan is not waiting for official government approval of marriage equality. The Famii Project is offering digital partnership certificates for lesbian and gay couples as a way to verify their relationships. Some progressive companies have been looking for a way to do that, so that they can provide the same benefits to them that are offered to other partnered employees. Those benefits include family health insurance coverage, parental leave, and other perks given to coupled heterosexuals. National marriage equality is highly unlikely, given the ruling party's adamant refusal to even consider the issue. A number of municipalities in Japan have issued civil partnership certificates to same-gender couples, but their limited benefits are only available to residents of each municipality.
At least 17 companies have already signed on to the Famii project, including the major investment bank Mizuho Financial Group and 2 insurance companies, Sampo Japan and Hoto Link. According to the Kyoto News Service, Mizuho has offered familial benefits to its queer workers since 2016, but cannot offer them unless the worker can provide proof of their relationship. The digital certificates being offered through the Famii project solves that problem. Famii founder Koki Uchiyama told Reuters that their goal is to have at least 100 companies enrolled by July. Uchiyama said, "If we have a big network of corporations that support us, we can persuade the government to change the law." Perhaps wishful thinking, but a nice thought nevertheless.
A disturbing new report suggests that almost 1 in 5 Russians support the entire elimination of LGBTQ people. The non-governmental research group Levada Center's independent survey also found 32% of respondents want to isolate LGBTQ people from society. Just 9% said they wanted to support queers. The center has conducted the survey every year since 1989 to measure tolerance for people who deviate from socially acceptable norms. Actually, this year's numbers represent a slight increase in the acceptance of LGBTQ people in Russian society. 3% fewer people favor the elimination of queers than in 2015. The number favoring isolation was down 5%, and there was a 3% increase in respondents who said they wanted to support LGBTQ people. The survey published this week was conducted between February 20th and 26th. 1,614 respondents in 50 urban and rural regions of Russia participated. St. Petersburg lesbian activist Svetlana Sakharova expressed concerns that the survey results might spark even more anti-queer government actions, not to mention assaults against people perceived to be queer by nationalist thugs. However, she insists that Russians are not as homophobic as authorities or federal mass media try to portray them. While the survey results are far from ideal, Zakharova told NBC News that the situation is slightly changing for the better.
Caught up in a raid on the pretext of a COVID-19 lockdown violation, 19 Ugandan men perceived to be queer remain in jail with bail denied. Police rounded them up at a homeless shelter for sexual minorities on March 29th. The men range in age from 19 to 32. According to the Voice of America, 23 men were detained at the Children of the Sun Foundation shelter in the town of Kianjira, 10 kilometers southwest of the capital city, Kampala. 4 were released on medical grounds, but the other 19 have been behind bars ever since. Most of the men were outed during television coverage of the raid. The defendants are charged with conduct likely to cause the spread of an infectious disease. Bail was ostensibly denied out of fear that their release could further expose the population.
A police spokesman said that the officers made the arrests after complaints from neighbors and claimed that it had nothing to do with the men being gay. Gatherings of more than 5 people are outlawed under the Ugandan government's emergency lockdown rules. Veteran activist Frank Mugisha of Sexual Minorities Uganda said that the shelters for LGBTQ people have had to change policies under the lockdown. Shelters like the one in Kiangara often house queer young people who've been kicked out of their homes with nowhere else to go. Mugisha charged that only LGBTQ gatherings are being targeted for breaking the 5-person rule. Uganda is well known for being one of the worst places on earth to be queer. It's not known if any of the 19 detainees have actually been tested for coronavirus. Unless bail is unexpectedly granted, they're stuck in jail, a common breeding ground for COVID-19. Their first court hearing is scheduled for May 12th.
One of Kenya's most acclaimed films is still banned from screens at home. It's called Rafiki, Friend in Kiswahili, and it's about 2 young women falling in love. It was the first film from the East African country to debut at the Cannes Film Festival. The Kenya Film Classification Board banned Rafiki in April 2018 because it allegedly promotes homosexuality, and that's illegal in Kenya. This week, the Constitutional Court upheld the ban, rejecting charges that it was muzzling freedom of expression in the overwhelmingly Christian nation. The film's producer, Wanuri Kahiu, vowed to appeal to the nation's Supreme Court. She told Reuters that the ruling is not a true reflection of what the Constitution says.
The chief of the Byron, Georgia Fire Department is suing the city in federal court for wrongful termination after she came out as transgender. Rachel Mosby was hired in 2007 as fire marshal of Byron, a farming region outside of Macon, Georgia, with about 4,500 residents. She was promoted to chief in January 2008 to lead its first professional fire department. She was fired by the city administrator last June for allegedly poor performance. Despite nary a mention of her transgender status, the lawsuit Mosby filed last week contends that in reality, the termination was based on her sex, gender identity, and notions of sex stereotyping. It argues that Mosby spent years developing the fire department from the ground up, secured funding to pay for equipment, and improved the department's rating that insurance companies use to help determine a community's fire risk. The city denies that her transition was a factor in the termination. The U.S. Supreme Court heard cases testing federal anti-discrimination protections for LGBTQ workers in October. It may be the ultimate arbiter of cases just like Mosby's. A ruling there is expected in June.
Finally, this is what democracy looks like. A lesbian former deputy sheriff in Hamilton County, Ohio, has won the Democratic primary, defeating her former boss, the guy she's suing for wrongful termination. Charmaine Mcguffey crushed incumbent Sheriff Jim Neal by a nearly 70% margin. She'll face a Cincinnati police lieutenant on the November ballot who ran unopposed in the Republican primary. Mcguffey was responsible for jail and court services. Under her tenure, the Hamilton County Justice Center went from being the lowest-ranked large jail system in Ohio to the best in the state. Neal actually admitted to firing Mcguffey for being a lesbian, claiming that it created a hostile work environment. Mcguffey's federal lawsuit also charges that she was fired for expressing concerns about excessive use of force by sheriff's deputies. The lawsuit is still pending. Neal was already unpopular in Democratic circles for being too conservative. He even appeared at a Donald Trump rally in 2016. So it's no surprise that the local Democratic Party's nominating committee endorsed his primary challenger. Mcguffey has said that she believed she would win, but by 70%? She said, "I didn't know it would be that large."
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude, for the week ending May 2nd, 2020. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is usually recorded in the studios of KPFK in Los Angeles, but during the COVID-19 emergency, we are recording remotely. The news is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazor, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out Radio YouTube channel. For This Way Out, I'm John Dyer V. Stay healthy.
And I'm Michael Taylor Gray. Stay safe